Welcome to another episode of Supy Talks. Today, I'm joined by Dan Jarvis, Head of Finance at Pizza Express UAE, one of the world's most recognisable F&B brands. And when you're running a brand at such scale, there are so many operational and financial challenges, and that's what our conversation is going to be about today. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on. Looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. You're someone I really wanted to speak to. Could you help our listeners and viewers first by just giving it a bit of background to who you are and what your role at Pizza Express UAE is?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Dan Jarvis. I am the Head of Finance at Pizza Express. I've been with the company now for just under 6 years. My journey into accounting and finance and all that sort of jazz began 14 years ago now as an 18-year-old.
Okay, nice.
So if you do the maths, that makes me 23.
Looking amazing for 23 even though I thought you'd be a bit older actually. Sorry,
very
younger.
Very kind. Yeah, very older.
Yeah, I meant younger.
Cut that out, yeah.
Yeah.
So, my journey started off as a school leaver. Now, a lot of people assume that you have to go to university to be an accountant, but I took what is officially known as the school leavers route. So for the first 5 years of my accounting journey or career, I was sort of 1 week in the classroom, 1 week in the office, doing my exams whilst also getting real life experience.
Cool.
So I started off at a very small local firm. There was 50 employees, and one of the greatest benefits of starting at a smaller firm is that you get exposure to a lot of different work. So I had exposure to accounts, tax, audit. Very, very boring. But it lasted 2 years in audit, but we won't talk about that.
Impressive.
We'll get onto the fun stuff. And then, after 5 years, I moved locally into central London for one of the big firms. And that's where I really learnt my trade in terms of managing juniors, leadership, learning off, the big partners in the company who have had, 40, 50, 60 years experience, And then in 2018, Dubai came calling. So I up sticks from London and came to Dubai, moved over, completely different company, completely different role. I was with them for 2 years. And then, as I say, the last 6 years, I've been at Pizza Express and here we are today.
Amazing. How did you find that move and how did you kind of get your role at Pizza Express?
Yeah, so the move to Dubai itself was something that I always wanted to do. I've been coming here on family holidays since 2008, so it's a home away from home. So when I got the role of my previous company before Pizza Express, it was an absolute dream come true.
Yeah, amazing. That's really cool. And I'm wondering, what are the kind of responsibilities? What's your roles and responsibilities at Pizza Express UAE?
So on a day-to-day basis, we're just looking at, sales levels, margins, cash flow, which I'm sure I'll speak a lot about throughout this conversation. And also I manage a team of 4. So it's about just giving them the guidance that they need to produce the necessary reports, but also to train them, to make them become more analytical. And that's more of my people sort of role. Yeah. And then on a weekly basis, we have our weekly meetings, weekly reports that we have to do. I have to explain to our shareholders in the UK, why we're ahead of budget. I won't say missing budget. Why we're doing so well.
Yeah. Nice.
And there's a lot of, in my role as head of finance, there's a lot of presentations and, getting our important stakeholders to understand what is going on within the business.
That's amazing. And as a finance leader in an F&B brand, which are the kind of other roles and departments you have to speak to and deal with the most?
Every single department.
Everyone.
We have marketing.
Yeah.
Obviously the main guys that we interact with, shall we say.
Yeah.
Not always pleasantly, because they're going to say to me, Dan, if you give us this budget, we will definitely return this. And it's like, prove it. How can you do that? So there's always, I think it's a thing in F&B where marketing and finance is always that little squabble over budget, shall we say.
I've had enough of those tough conversations, I think it would be all right having them with you. You seem pretty reasonable.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, exactly. So. And so at a company that's at quite a large scale like yours, is finance just a spreadsheet exercise or does it go further than that?
No, absolutely, much further than that. Finance is well, I'd like to think the pinnacle of any business. Without finance, you don't know how the company's doing, how profitable we are, where we could save costs, what's our bottom line EBITDA. So in terms of it being a spreadsheet exercise, certainly not. We then have to generate certain reports from these spreadsheets, from the POS that comes that we want to feed directly into the finance reporting system. And with AI, that's what we're looking at doing more and more as AI becomes the buzzword.
Yeah, no, that's exciting because it's been very spreadsheet based until now, but I feel like that space is changing a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and do you think there are things that, you're from a finance background, a lot of people get into restaurants from passion and then they build their brand up. Are there things that you think they might misunderstand about finance that if you spoke to them, you'd give them advice on and help them understand earlier?
Yeah, I think when it comes to F&B as an industry, it isn't just about numbers. I'll give you an example. I could be sat in head office and I just want the cheapest of everything because that gives us the biggest margins. Yeah. But when you look at operationally, customers, if we're giving away cheap ingredients or ingredients that they don't see as value, they're not going to come back. Yeah. So I think, when it comes to F&B, we really have to think operationally, and cheap certainly isn't always best.
Yeah. That's interesting because I remember when we first spoke, you were saying to me you can do the numbers, you can do the maths, but really it's more of a people game, like understanding the strategy. And would you say that you are stronger with your numbers or with people? Like where do you need to be strong in a role like yours?
Yeah. I like to think I'm strong at both. I'm a bit of a social butterfly. I love getting on with everyone. Yeah. And that's why I love my role as head of finance in a globally known pizza chain. The brand, if you're from the UK, it speaks for itself. With 300 restaurants in the UK, we've got 500 restaurants globally, and we're looking to expand that to 1,000 in the next 5 years. So for me, it's the absolute ideal role.
Yeah, it's a really cool company, really cool brand, and a great product. So are there some of those things where there are red lines? Like as a company, you always make sure you go for premium or a certain quality on some items and not others? Yeah,
so we position ourselves as casual dining. So as well as serving what I believe to be great pizza and obviously the famous dough balls, we also want to be part of a dine-out experience. So as an example, our JLT restaurant, we have live music every single weekday. Cool. 6 out of 7 weekdays. And it's that part of becoming a premium casual dining brand where families, groups of hen parties, kids at the other end can all come in under one roof and have a really fantastic time. Our slogan is great pizza, great times. So I nearly forgot it then.
No, but I mean, it does have that place in people's heads. Like I remember at school going to Pizza Express and they did pizza making classes. We went with our school. You had birthday parties. You probably had never eaten garlic butter until you had your dough balls. So like it definitely holds a special place in people's minds.
Absolutely.
And I think what's really cool is you've brought back a lot of the live music and stuff. So because I've definitely been to your one I think it's in Soho in London, and that was like, okay, wow, it's good pizza, but it's also like a really see an amazing musician. That's really good to have that in your head rather than just like we do pizza.
So that Soho restaurant was the very, very first Pizza Express to open in 1965.
Amazing.
So
still going strong.
Absolutely, still there. And as you say, back when you was at school, certainly for me, it was a pretty cool premium brand. Yeah. Good value for money. So back in sixth form, I would take all of my girlfriends there, 3 courses for $9.99 on a Friday. Everyone's happy.
Yeah, everyone's happy. I love it. Nice. And going back to the finance and ops, like where do you, when you're interacting with operations, because it is a very operationally heavy business, like where do you guys clash most and how do you kind of work around that?
Again, it's what I mentioned previously about in finance, I could sit here and say, use the cheapest, do this, don't worry about that. But at the end of the day, what we've just touched on, it's all about the customer experience. Yeah. So, are we not going to be in one location, for example, just because the rent is too high? Or on the flip side, do we need to be seen in a specific location and we'll take the hit on the rent, but knowing that our top line sales will grow? Yeah. So it's a complete mishmash of having that communication with operations, looking at, at the end of the day, bottom line is everything. If we're not going to make money, then it's not worth investing or cutting corners.
Yeah, but is that like a human decision? So, I can see where those people skills are important if it is, or are there kind of guidelines and rules that have been put in place over time, or is it a bit of balancing act?
Absolutely a bit of balance. Yeah. We can play by the rules, look at guidelines, but I think at the end of the day, in any decision, if common sense should be the prevailing factor in anything. Yeah.
Okay, and I wanted to find out about like some of those trade-offs you've made. So can you talk about an example where you went for a more expensive option or you sacrificed revenue for a better outcome?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to flip the script a little bit here. So if I ask you, would you rather make 10 million dirhams of profit off of 100 million dirhams of sales? Yeah. Or would you rather make 10 million dirhams profit off of 50 million of sales?
The latter.
The latter?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I feel like there's a lot of work that goes into servicing that extra $50 million.
Correct.
Or dirhams.
Yeah, correct. So the latter example, you're looking at 20% margin. Yeah. The first example, looking at 10% margin. Now, at the end of the day, its bottom line is what drives a business. Yeah. So why make that extra effort to get that extra 50 million dirhams when you're still going to be making the same? Yeah. So I'm very big on efficiency, and we want the most possible output for the least input. Yeah. In a nutshell.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I feel like it's probably a difficult balancing act to try and expand and do that at the same time. Yeah. So how do you approach something like expansion?
So we are a self-funding business. We open all of our restaurants through our own cash, i.e. any profit that we make is genuinely invested straight back into the business. Now with that, and it's a touch point that I've mentioned previously, cash flow. Yeah. Cash flow. Yeah. So important for any business. And it's one part of finance which I believe is very undervalued. Not in F&B. We're quite lucky in F&B in that we get money straight away from a customer or within 2 or 3 days when the credit card companies pay us out. Whereas with other companies, if you're looking at 30, 60, 90 debtor days, the cash flow is very, very important. So I'm quite lucky in F&B. The money in isn't too much of an issue. What is an issue is the money out, i.e. supplier payment days, capital expenditure when you open a new restaurant. And the one thing that probably isn't spoken about enough is rental. So some of our restaurants, we pay the landlords monthly, we pay them quarterly, and some we pay annually. So if you think we're going to be building a big cash buffer for a year, and then we're going to say, for example, lose 1 million dirham 1 month in rent, in the same month you've got to pay payroll. So you're looking at 2 to 3 million straight out of suppliers. Yeah. So it's absolutely essential that there is a succinct cash flow forecasting or presentation in place, and we do that every single week at Pizza Express.
Oh, that's cool. I was going to ask how it works. Like, how do you plan for that that annual cost? Like, are your forecasts very accurate? Like, what goes into making that work? Because I can imagine if it's off by even a small amount, then you can be in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. So typically, my cash flow is driven from our budget, and we can spend 2 to 3 months each year doing a budget, iron out all the nooks and crannies, looking into details of absolutely everything, so we can be sure that the budget is as detailed, is as realistic as it possibly can be. So that's a very good starting point for doing the cash flow for the next year. Now, in terms of income, we can base that on the sales budget. And then because we're doing a detailed cash flow forecast every single week, if we know we're going to miss budget 1 week, that can be tweaked in the cash flow, and that there isn't too much of an alarm around it.
Yeah.
Also, we have a spreadsheet of every single check that we have distributed to landlords, to some cases suppliers, so we know when they're going to be cashed. Therefore, we can predict peaks and troughs in that cash flow. And also, we try and give suppliers 60 days payment terms.
Yeah.
Again, just to try and build that cash flow and make sure that the trough isn't too much of a trough that we have to, set alarm bells ringing.
It sounds like incredible, financial discipline.
Yeah.
But it is quite amazing to have a brand with so many locations globally that is self-funding. I think that's I guess hats off to the finance team at Pizza Express for that one.
Hats off to the head of finance.
Yeah, hats off to the head of finance UAE. Yeah. Okay, fine, fair enough.
Just that guy sat in Dubai.
Yeah, it's amazing what one guy can do. Okay,
no,
nice.
I've got an amazing team. Let me make that clear. I've got an amazing team.
Yeah, nice. And is there I guess what I'm hearing is the trade-offs, you're probably thinking ahead, you're probably not expanding at the rate that you could, but you're taking strategic decisions. Looking at it the other way, what would be the cost of saying yes to everything, every opportunity?
Quite simply running out of cash. And that is of absolutely no use to anybody. Because you have to think, when you open a new restaurant, you have the initial outlay of the CapEx. You then have the labour costs of training the staff. You then have the initial outlay of the ingredients you're going to use. So these are all outlays, and the restaurant's not even trading yet. So you have to be very, very cautious when opening these new restaurants. If we say yes to everything, the golden pot would run dry very, very quickly.
Yeah, so you're the no man as much as you are the yes man.
Absolutely. Nice. No man within very, very, very good reason.
Okay.
Otherwise, I like to give everyone, their own space to do what they need to do to make the brand a success.
No, but that's cool because I think it gives a good example of finance being a properly strategic partner in the business, and it clearly having a positive effect on the business. Whereas I think some earlier operators might think of it as more of a pure support function, just making sure we do the bits we need to do to be compliant, to make sure people are paid. And it's quite interesting to hear that in your business it is actually quite strategic.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you were telling me the other day about one of these decisions, quite tough decisions you had around delivery. Do you have delivery on in all restaurants at all times, or are there times you switch it off?
Yeah, so that's a very, very good point. So delivery, in essence, it should be incremental revenue because the restaurants are already there, the staff's already there, the chefs are already there. In essence, it's incremental revenue. However, and this happens when our JLT Friday brunch is going on, we typically turn off delivery for a few hours because we're servicing 300, 400 guests. They're all wanting the food at the same time. The kitchen quite literally cannot cope, and rightly so, it should be turned off. So at this point in time, yes, we're sacrificing sales, but overall the guests will get the best Pizza Express experience. And also you don't want the hassle of online customers complaining that their pizza took 2 hours to be delivered. Yeah. So that's where we sort of trade off between turning delivery on and turning it off.
Yeah, you're keeping saying no to bad revenue and making sure that the guest experience stays high, so you have good retention.
Absolutely, I think saying no, not saying yes to every sale, every bit of revenue. It's not. It can't be healthy. It's certainly not in the long term. Yeah. Missing out on those few thousand dirhams worth of sales, but keeping your current customers happy, I think is essential for longevity.
That's really interesting. Okay, cool. And then now I want to dig a bit more into your menu. So menu engineering is a term that's thrown around, but I know you're one of the teams that actually do it. What is menu engineering? How do you go about it? And what's the point of it? Yeah,
so menu engineering is where we look at every single item on our menu. And essentially, in a nutshell, we look at how popular the dish is, the margin on the dish, and we have this.
It's like a matrix, isn't it?
That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
The matrix has got cash cows, dogs. Cannot remember the other two.
Stars and plough horses. Yeah.
You know more than I do. We should be swapping roles here.
Our software has this built in.
So we do this typically twice a year. And so we place every single product into this matrix and look at items that are doing very, very well, that there's no need to change anything. Could we do a price increase? And how sensitive is that product to a price increase? You know, if it's doing really, really well at its current price, would a 1 or 2 dirham increase significantly change that demand? If it doesn't, fantastic, bigger margins. If it does, then, you know, in the long run, it won't do as well. Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, the products that aren't doing so well, should we take them off the menu? Should we do something marketing around those not selling as well products? So yeah, we do this 2 or 3 times a year to gauge, you know, what items are selling well, what items aren't doing us any favors, and also with the items that aren't doing well, you've got to think about the wastage behind that as well. So it's extremely important to look at that, at least on an annual basis at the very minimum.
Yeah, that's interesting. And are there any examples of items that have gone off the menu, or items that have been created off such a process?
Yeah, so we, at Pizza Express specifically, we had a pescateria. It's like fish on pizza.
Okay, yeah.
I absolutely hate fish. So from day dot, I was like,
you wanted to get rid of it anyway.
Absolutely. It's from a personal point of view. Fish is... I don't eat anything out of the sea.
Okay, fine.
So I'm very anti-fish.
Yeah.
But the cost of fish is expensive. So if we're paying suppliers and it's not being shifted, then, you know, it's not good. Not good. Get that off the menu. Not just because it's fish. Yeah. But at least I had a financial reason to back up my anti-fish.
It seems like the people voted with their dirhams and they were on your side on that one.
Absolutely, yeah. Thankfully. Cool. And also, pineapple shouldn't go on pizza either. So I made that very, very clear to all the viewers. Should not go on pizza. Very clear.
They've got the message. Yeah. With menu engineering, how do you test some of those price increases if they happen? Is it a test, or you just wait 6 months and look again?
Yeah. So yeah, this is the thing I was getting at in terms of we should be doing menu engineering at least once a year. Yeah. And then if you have made material changes every 3 months, every 6 months, just to keep an eye on how it's performing. Yeah. There's no point in going, right, we're going to increase product X by 2 dirhams, and then in 1 year's time, you only come to realise it hasn't sold as many. So it's important to really keep a track on any products where you change the price that might be sensitive to a consumer's demand. Yeah.
Is that normally just the financial data you look at, or do you speak to people in store to get feedback on the floor?
So it is generally 90% financially data driven, but we do get feedback from restaurant managers. I think it's important to get the qualitative feedback as well as the quantitative feedback, especially in F&B. I think that goes without saying.
It's all data, and sometimes people can think that data just means numbers, but like data is qualitative as well. And I find that like the quantitative data tells you which direction to go in or points you in the direction, and the qualitative kind of probably gives you the backing up to follow through on it or pull back or just give a bit of context.
Absolutely. I was going to say that's the qualitative stuff is kind of the backup to, you know, is a restaurant buzzing on a Friday night? It all seems good on the restaurant floor. Yeah. Can we back that up with the financial stats in head office? Absolutely.
That's one of the quite cool things about F&B, because there is constant feedback. You know, in-store teams are speaking to people every day, whereas in some businesses, you might sell your product, people use it, you don't see them using it. And that's quite an interesting angle of F&B, I think.
Absolutely.
Nice. And I wanted to touch on, you're a global business. You've got restaurants in many, many countries. Are all Pizza Express restaurants the same, or are there regional kind of variations?
Yes, it's an interesting question. So, as I touched on before, we've got 500 restaurants globally, from the UK to Hong Kong, Cyprus, Gibraltar, India. We're quite big in India.
Oh, nice.
There's 25 restaurants there. Wow. Now, in terms of the UAE, the example I give is, if you look at JLT, a restaurant in JLT, licensed, full of Brits, having a good time, shall we say?
Yeah, I think we've all seen them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe been there.
Friday brunch, and then you compare that to Fujairah, and that's within the same country, completely different concept. Unlicensed, 90% of our customers are locals, and we actually sell more pastas than pizza in Fujairah.
Wow.
And we also typically see a higher average spend per head. So what they do, the Emiratis, they tend to order a spread of food. So order a lot more food and have that as sharers and stuff like that. You compare that to JLT, completely different.
Yeah.
You go to Fujairah on a Friday night, JLT on a Friday night. You wouldn't realise it's the same restaurant. So that's where we have to really, really be careful on localised demand and localised taste on what they want.
That's really cool. So the cultural differences drive, different kind of purchasing decisions. And do you adjust the menu at all, or the format, or the layout, or is it more just the behaviour is different? Yeah.
So in our licensed venues, we typically have a more expensive menu, but that is to cover the cost of Dubai municipality tax.
Okay.
So you'll see if you go from a margarita in JLT or Business Bay, another licensed venue, will be only a couple of dirhams more than what you see in our core restaurants, i.e. unlicensed venues. And that's purely just to cover the tax.
Okay, interesting. And are there any kind of big misconceptions? Imagine you're in your position at a new pizza chain, and you're going from 1 or 2 countries to say 20. Are there anything misconceptions or things you'd say to them to help them avoid as they expand globally?
I think it's all the fine details. As a customer, you don't think about it at all. So if you're expanding globally, you've got to look at local suppliers. And if you can't find a local supplier, what is the cost of distributing it from, let's say, the UAE to India or Gibraltar? So there is so much things that go on that customers wouldn't even bat an eye. You'll just go, oh, there's another Pizza Express. But the workings that go on behind it, the operations are absolutely incredible. From, as I mentioned, the suppliers right through to the marketing, and also the local taste. So if I use India as an example, they have a much more appetite for spicier food. So their menu is different to the UAE. They have a lot more spicy ingredients. A lot more green chili on most things. So no, it's very, very different, and you have to have experts who know the local market. You can't just go, right, we're going to put a Pizza Express here. A lot of work goes into it.
I remember speaking to someone on the podcast who had opened a lot of Nobu restaurants globally, and they are very specific about even where the duck's coming from. And I didn't realize how much there was about importing a certain type of duck. Whereas there are some ingredients that you can find, a lot of locally, and normally the quality is quite good, but some it's really challenging. Are there any key ingredients like that for Pizza Express?
I'm glad you asked. So for every single Pizza Express in the world, the tomato comes from one supplier in Italy.
Wow.
And has done since 1965.
That's cool. Where are they? Where are they based?
Naples.
Ah, cool. That is really actually interesting, because you're getting that taste of Italy in every
absolutely.
pizza.
That was the Peter Boezzo who started the firm back in 1965. He wanted to bring the taste of Italy globally, essentially, and that's where he imported a pizza oven to Soho. The restaurant's still there, and now we're at 500 restaurants.
That's cool. And when I've been to Italy and tasted tomatoes, they taste sweeter, so you don't have to kind of add any. I know that some pizza places add some sugar into their mix. I feel like with those Italian tomatoes, it's just they're good as they are,
straight from the field to the plate. Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. That's really good. I didn't know that before.
I don't think many people do. So
no,
there's an exclusive there for you.
Exclusive. Amazing. Well, bringing it back to sort of finance and costs. Labour works a bit differently in the UAE to a lot of other geographies. How does that work, and how have you had to adapt for it?
Yes, so in the UAE, as we know, labour in nature is fixed. Okay. So we don't have any part-time employees. Now, there has been some recent legislation that allows for part-time, but it's something that I'm not too familiar with. So bearing that in mind, when restaurants aren't busy, we can't just send people home and save on their hourly rate, for example, which you can do in the UK. So we have to really manage, right, restaurants aren't going to be busy, let's say lunchtime, for example. Let's say one of our quiet restaurants isn't very busy at lunchtime. So therefore, we'd only put on 1 or 2 staff. They would do their 9-hour shift. But we know in the evening it is going to be busy. So we'd station the bulk of our staff, from 3 o'clock till midnight. Because we can't save on costs, we have to be clever about when they're actually working in the restaurants, because it is by nature a fixed cost.
Yeah.
Cost, sorry.
You got a fixed cost. Okay, cool. And are there any strategies or things you've had to adapt to account for that? Because I imagine it must be difficult when demand fluctuates. Like a Saturday in JLT might be really busy, but a Sunday, it might drop down.
Yeah, just another point on the labour.
Yeah.
We're seeing labour costs, labour salaries, nearly double, triple since COVID. Now, what's happening is a lot of beach clubs are opening in Dubai, and they can afford to pay much bigger salaries. Their income's massive. When they're selling bottles of vodka for stupid amounts of money,
their margins high.
Their margins are very, very high. Definitely a cash cow on the matrix. So what we're seeing is, as well as that bigger salary, they're then getting bigger tips, and then that comes down. All of that filters down to the restaurants. So we're getting staff come in or leave saying, I'm going to go to a beach club, for example. I'm going to get a much bigger salary. I'm going to get much bigger tips. There's, in terms financially, there's no reason for me to stay. So as well as the nature of fixed labour costs, as well as labour being expensive to a business, you've got to think about medical insurance, visa costs, gratuity costs. It's becoming expensive in F&B, and I'm sure that all other operators will say the exact same.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I also feel like in restaurants here you often have higher staffing levels than in some places in Europe. So maybe it will, when you're being paid more, maybe the expectation is higher, further training, further kind of develop these stuff so they're more efficient as well. That'll be really interesting to see how it changes over the next couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the training, we actually give some of the best training. So our staff are in the restaurant or in and out the restaurant, inductions, etc., for 45 days. Wow. And we're quite well known that if you've got Pizza Express on your CV, that you tend to be
of a certain caliber.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess being so good at what you do sometimes comes to bite you in the back, because they will happily go to another, I keep using the term, beach club. Yeah. If they see that on your CV, because they know that they've been trained so well, they then leave us for a higher paid job. It's not swings and roundabouts, but we're proud of what we do. Okay,
that's cool. I'll look out for a Pizza Express beach club coming up then,
never say never. Never say never. It has been muted, Dough Balls on the beach. Well, I can't remember what the tagline was now. This was a few years ago.
Okay, nice.
We do Dough Balls on the beach, or I can't remember what it was. Cool. But never say never. No, especially in today's climate, any concept can go.
Definitely. At least for a pop-up, I can imagine that working nicely.
Yes, I think you're onto something there.
All right. Well, I'll see it in 6 months. Although maybe a bit hot in summer.
We'll do it after.
Okay, great. And you were talking about cash flow quite passionately earlier.
Yes.
So if there was one financial discipline that operators mastered, what would it be? And what are the top 3 things they should know about it?
Can I use cash flow?
You can.
So as I touched on in quite a bit of detail, cash is king, as the saying goes. It really, really is. You could be the most profitable business in the world, but if you don't manage cash, you won't have the money to pay your suppliers and, more importantly, your staff. So if I just touch back again on the weekly detailed cash flow that I do, that includes absolutely every expense you can think of, even to the employees that are leaving, their gratuity, that all goes in. Any dirham that goes out the account, you must forecast, or at least have some sort of estimate. Right, we know we're going to pay payroll on this date, therefore we don't really want to pay suppliers on that date, because that'll be a huge chunk of cash out of the bank. So it's just about looking forward and having as much information as possible and making the right choices in terms of when do you prioritize suppliers, people, and then notwithstanding or forgetting about the landlord checks.
Yeah. No, amazing. That's really good advice. And I imagine during COVID, it was quite a tricky time for forecasting. So did that change your approach at all?
I think this is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about the cash flows, because that's when my passion for cash flow really changed during COVID, because we had to count every single dirham. You know, if you imagine people weren't dining out because they wasn't allowed to, so much of our trade was delivery. And of course, with delivery, the aggregators take a commission, so our margins are squeezed. We were quite fortunate is that we had some very understanding landlords, so we could delay some of our rental payments. But as you quite rightly touched on, COVID was, I think, a game changer, certainly in terms of penny pinching and not just spending because the money's there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, nice. And I just want to touch on like a few of the lessons you've had for scaling. You've seen brands scale up. Like what breaks first as restaurant brands scale, and what things should be in place earlier than most people expect they should be?
Yeah, so I think in terms of scaling, there's always that chance of scaling too quickly. You know, you see people get very, very excited, like, yeah, we can open here, there's a market here, there's a market there, let's just do it. And it comes back to my favourite cash flow, right? Yeah. You can't just spend tens of millions of dirhams, throw money at it and expect it to work straight away. You know, you have to ensure that you have a very detailed and succinct business plan. Whenever we open a new restaurant, we do three scenarios. We have what do we expect, reasonably what do we expect. What's our best case or exceptional case? Well, obviously what we want to happen ideally. And we have a worst case scenario. Now, I tell the guys, make the worst case like Armageddon. So that if it does completely go wrong, we can still survive. We still have the cash there. We can still pay everyone. We can still pay our suppliers. So my advice would be is this 3 scenario forecast, just so you know, if it does go wrong, we know that we do have the cash there. We can still survive, and we can carry on operating, leveraging off of our other restaurants.
That sounds like a really helpful kind of mental model to know what you need as a base, where you'd ideally like to be, and like what pushing would look like.
There should be, sorry to interrupt, there should be 4 cases really. That's expected, best case, worst case, and then break even case. So you know what sales level you have to hit in order to, you know, not make a loss.
And at what point would you make a decision to like cut a restaurant within those 4 scenarios?
Yes, good question. So if we talk about seasonality, you can always expect sales during Ramadan, and particularly these days, summertime when it's too hot, everyone leaves Dubai. You can reasonably expect sales to dip. So if we're looking at a restaurant that's not working, that has to be taken into account. Okay, let's see what we can do in Q4. Dubai's bustling, it's busy, the tourists are here, everyone's hopefully out spending money. And we'd look at doing a marketing campaign, you know, to push what we've just opened, whatever we're selling. So if the marketing campaign doesn't work and it's during the busiest time of year, I think you can then reasonably expect that, okay, we gave it a go, it hasn't worked, let's just cut our losses now and, you know, go in a different direction. That's
actually really interesting learning. So if it's not working in Q4 in Dubai, it's not going to work. That's a really important quarter.
I would put my neck on the line and say that, you know.
That's amazing.
Because for us, Q4 is certainly our busiest. And I can imagine it's the same for other F&B operators, particularly those that operate at events. Because, you know, it's perfect weather. You've got all of these concerts and shows, and everyone's coming to Dubai during Q4. So we tend to do a large number of pop-ups, and we've become really, really good in the market at doing that. operationally our sales are good. So yeah, Q4's king.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and that takes us into the January slowdown. So where people tend to be a bit more tight with their money in January after Christmas and New Year, they tend to be a bit more healthier. So for a pizza restaurant, it's not always great for us. And then obviously this year we've now got into Ramadan, so we have to be really, really careful on our forecasting and cash flow levels.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's really cool. Okay, great. And I know you have some pretty strong opinions in finance that you've learned through being in the business.
Yeah.
So what is a widely accepted kind of best practice or accounting finance view that you kind of disagree with?
Best practice? Wow, that is a very, very good question. So I'm going to go a bit AWOL with this answer and say average spend per head. Now, how do I eloquently explain this? So a lot of our managers are told, right, we have to hit this X amount average spend per customer that comes in. Now, for me, I just really, really want to drive customers into our restaurants because I see the restaurant really as a sunk cost. Whether the customer's there or not, the restaurant's there, the staff's there, everything's in place. Let's just get bums on seats. So whether you can make a customer spend 30 dirham or 300, if the restaurant's not full, we just want bums on seats. And we're quite fortunate that pizza's a very healthy markup. Yeah. So yes, by all means, absolutely upsell, get the highest average spend per head you possibly can. But I wouldn't spend, too much time worrying about it. I'd want to be getting customers bums on seats into the restaurant. Yeah. And once they're in, we can then start thinking about average spend.
It's kind of a secondary metric. Yeah. That's interesting.
So I'll probably get in a lot of trouble for saying that, but it's out there. It's controversial.
It's good. It comes from real experience, and I think it probably suits your restaurant type as well. They're nice places to be. They're not normally cramped or small, and you want that to feel full, and that probably adds to the customer experience as well.
Yeah, and if you don't, if you don't force the upsell and just give them the experience they want, they're going to come back. Yeah. Or you'd like to think so. So that's another sort of argument against all my points.
No, that's really cool. And are there any, I guess maybe it's the same answer. I was going to ask, are there any metrics that you think restaurant operators overly obsess on and they should kind of just chill a bit?
I wouldn't say overly obsessed, but discounting. That's a very, very big one. Yeah. So if we go into a little bit of detail on discounting in terms of delivery, if we look at Talabat, that is typically where most F&B operators will give their highest discount because the users of Talabat typically spend the least amount of money. Yeah. Compare that to Deliveroo or Karim these days, who are becoming massive. The users there tend to have a lot more spending power. Yeah. So, slightly away from the question, but again, it's looking at the dynamics of each aggregator we know that Talabat, the typical customer, isn't going to spend as much. So we can look at discounting more there. Okay. Whereas Deliveroo, we know that they've got a bit more spending power, so we don't have to discount as much there. Yeah,
interesting. How behaviour is different on different aggregators. Yeah. And I think when you're selling someone for convenience, which all of the aggregators are, it's not that convenient to go on all four and check. So it's probably a behaviour that, it doesn't matter that you could compare and could save money.
No, I don't think a lot of people do. I mean, I typically use Karim and Deliveroo, and it's just my personal preference. I wouldn't go check in Talabat, or there are other aggregators available.
Yeah, especially some new ones in the market.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Kita, yeah.
Yeah. And are you at Pizza Express, is your strategy put yourselves on all the aggregators?
Yeah, and I don't think there's any harm in that. No. I think visibility is key. Yeah. If you're not on one aggregator, I don't see why you would only be on one. No. Unless, of course, you get some unbelievable exclusivity deal where you're paying stupidly low commission. Yeah. Then you might have a business case, a financial case to say, we're only going to be exclusive on this one aggregator. Yeah. But
No, I think it's a good point, because I think there's only two scenarios in which you do it. One is if you're very limited on capacity, maybe you're testing a new concept and you can only handle a certain order volume. And I think the other one is if you are such an in-demand viral hit that like everyone is looking for you and you don't have many competitors. Obviously Pizza Express has an amazing brand, but you do have competitors.
Many.
Whereas I think Fixed Chocolate is possibly a good example. You know, they were just Deliveroo, now they're just on Kareem, and like people are going looking for them wherever they are. And I think for the rest of the time, spreading yourself is probably the best strategy.
I'd bet you're absolutely right. I was going to use the Fixed Chocolate example. They've jumping ship from Deliveroo to Kareem. That's
that's big news.
big news. Big news. Cool. So I make you right about the point of if something does go viral, aggregators are fighting over you to only use their platform. I can imagine that they got some fantastic commission.
We'll have to ask them.
Let's.
Okay, great. Well, it's been really, really interesting speaking to you. I've just got one more round because I genuinely want to know your answers on these. So I've got some quick fire questions.
Bring it on.
About 5. Okay, we'll go in for it.
Let's go. Let's get straight in.
So what is the best pizza in the UAE that is not Pizza Express?
Oh, don't make me ask this. So I'm going to say 2 if that's all right, because they're both for different reasons. So the first one is Papa John's. Papa John's.
Okay, we heard that.
I said Papa John's.
Yeah, very good.
The reason being, I'm a massive fan of stuffed crust, and they really do it best. Pizza Express don't serve stuffed crust, so I'm kind of allowed to say
you couldn't get it there.
And then the second one's Pitfire. So I know they have a very good licensed restaurant in Dubai Hills, and their pizza's good. Their pizza's good. I've nothing.
You've always got to look at the competition, see how
absolutely, and I think if competition's doing well, it raises the bar, so it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, that's good. Okay, cool. And your favourite place to get coffee in Dubai?
So I'm a big connoisseur of Caribou coffee. I have their loyalty app on my phone. I get it most days. I'm served by the same lady every morning.
Nice.
I have the same drink every morning. I think it's that case of familiarity, but also, personality. It's the same person, the same. You know what you're getting, and I'm very much a creature of habit. So cool. I'm going to go with Caribou coffee.
Great choice. Okay, best burger in the UAE according to Dan Jarvis.
I'm going to go AWOL with this one.
Okay.
We spoke about this before.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the KFC Zinger Burger.
Okay. I haven't heard that one before.
I know it's not a burger, really, because it's fried chicken, but because the KFC gravy is unbelievable, so you just get a big fat burger and dip it into the gravy. And
I bet. You heard it here first,
There we go.
Very good. Nice. I'll have to give that one a go.
Give it a go.
Okay.
The gravy's sensational.
Yeah, gravy is good. And actually, I think, it's as Brits, gravy has a sacred place in our hearts.
It does, especially with Northerners.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. Your favourite bar?
A lot of people that know me will know what I'm going to say. So again, I can choose 2 if that's all right, because it's slightly changed very recently. So the first one is the Coterie. Now they're based in Battuta. It's a bit of a hidden gem. They're a sports bar, screens everywhere, and in my opinion, they do the best Sunday roast in Dubai. It is phenomenal. You would have seen it all over social media. I think at one point it was top of the Yorkshire pudding rating.
Okay,
what the
nice.
Yorkshire pudding is. It's a guy that goes around Dubai every Sunday. He'll try a different venue and give an honest rating. So they were top of that, and they also have a bar looking over a football pitch where a UAE Division 2 team play.
Oh, cool.
So the whole setup for me, of someone who loves football, the staff are fantastic. It's an absolute gem.
That's cool.
Now I've recently started sort of being betraying Coterie a little bit and going to Bloom Sports Lounge.
Okay.
So that is a brand new sports bar in Marina, and I can literally see it from my balcony. It's within a 2-second walk.
Okay.
And for me, it's like the Coterie, but in Marina, which for the ease of getting there, location-wise, is absolutely phenomenal. Again, they show all sorts of sports. Staff are fantastic. do a fantastic happy hour. So yeah, shout out Cottery and Bloom.
Yeah, great shouts. I hadn't heard of either of them, so I'm sure some other people will.
Yeah, well, you're in Marina, aren't you? So I have to show you to Bloom.
Yeah, please do. Take me there now.
For sure. Straight after this.
Yeah, exactly.
Should have gone before.
Yeah. Yeah, should have gone before. It could have been even funnier. So I guess one more question, a bit more operationally or financially focused.
Okay.
Which restaurant do you think is exceptionally well run in Dubai?
Wow. Well, I mean, you've got the world famous Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah.
It's like clockwork.
Yeah.
But I also want to give a shout out to the independent sort of Lebanese restaurants dotted around Marina. So I go to these quite a bit. Yeah. And, you know, they're serving shisha, they bring out the bread basket and hummus. It's all... every time I go try out these places, I'm very, very impressed with how everything just works. So, yeah, shout out Cheesecake Factory and the independent Lebanese traders in Marina.
Yeah, definitely. Hospitality at its finest.
Absolutely. And, you know, with 13,000 to choose from in the UAE...
you can't go wrong.
Very well. They're doing very, very well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thanks for sharing your opinions, Dan. It's been great to have you on the podcast. And yeah, I'm sure everyone will enjoy this conversation.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure.
Thank you, mate.
Bye.
Cheers.